What's up, everybody?
Hey guys, thanks for stopping by this Tuesday. Today we're going to talk about what you need to know before you build or buy a tiny house. If you don't know us, I'm Alexis.
And I'm Christian, and we are Tiny House Expedition.
We're the co-creators of the docuseries Living Tiny Legally, and we are DIY tiny house dwellers.
And we are currently in North Carolina, in Raleigh, at my mom's house, who is currently getting ready to downsize. So we're helping her do that, and not downsize to something our size, not 130 square feet, something a little bit bigger.
She's not quite ready for that plunge.
No, she's not.
She probably never will be.
That's okay.
That's totally
to each
okay.
Their own.
So if you're new to our channel, we bring you tiny house and travel inspiration, advocacy news, and how-tos to help you achieve your goals to create a more fulfilling life and home. So along those lines, you fall in love with tiny houses, right? Check. But now you're trying to decide, should I build or buy a tiny house? This is a big decision. There's a lot of factors involved, and we're going to talk about that.
All right, guys, let's do this.
Let's do it. So a good place to start out is to learn about what other people are doing. Like us. So we built our tiny house. Well, actually, let me take you back a little bit. Let me take you back to 5 years ago. When we were researching to build our tiny house. So guess what, guys? First off, I wanted to tell you that today's my birthday.
It is her birthday.
It's my birthday, and I'm happy to share it with all of you on this live broadcast today. So here's the crazy thing I realized today. 6 years ago, almost on the dot, we started dating. And then only a year later, we were already researching to build our tiny house.
We were building a tiny house.
No, we weren't. We were researching.
Yeah, I guess we started in October.
Yeah.
So a little over a year.
Yeah, a little over a year.
Yeah.
And we researched for probably a good, we had been Pinteresting for
a long time.
A long time.
Yeah.
But we did hardcore research for about 9 months before we ordered our trailer.
And I was drawing pictures of it and stuff. I can't use SketchUp. So I was drawing tons and tons of pictures of it.
Yeah, which is a really good way to kind of, wrap your head around the size, what you're gonna need.
Yeah, and exactly what you're gonna want in the tiny house too. So it's a really, really good way to figure all that out. So yeah, and but it's hard to believe that it was. What did you say? It was 6 years ago?
6 years
6
ago.
years ago. Wow, that's cray.
So one of the first questions that you have to ask is, what are you realistically going to be able to afford? So many of you probably are already saving money, planning for that future build. And this is where a lot of people can get hung up. And so I know some people, it makes more sense to, have a lot of money saved up ahead of time. But for other people, they save up a little bit of money, maybe enough to buy their trailer, and then they build as they go along, as they can afford it.
Yeah, just paying cash as you go. As you get the money, dump it into the tiny house.
And that makes a lot of sense. That's a really great way not to go in debt. Other people get RV loans, which you're going to pay off probably within 15 years compared to, say, like a 30-year mortgage. Some people, like our friend Ariel, she paid off her loan within
3 years.
3 years, which is unbelievable. Yep. And she bought one of the more expensive tiny houses.
Yes, she did.
So there's a lot of different ways to approach it. But the big factors in deciding whether you want to build or buy a tiny house is realizing that a DIY tiny house, like many of you know, right, is a way to save money.
Yep.
So typically the cheapest DIY tiny house is around $15,000. You might hear stories of under that. It's highly unusual.
It's very unusual. Yeah, 15th. I mean, most of the time, a small trailer is going to cost you $5,000. That's a brand new trailer, which again, everyone should buy a brand new trailer. That's a whole other story.
We'll talk about that another day.
Another day.
So building your own starts at around 15,000, and it's going to go up to about 35,000. Now, of course, there's tons of factors like how big are you building, what materials are you using, are you making it all out of marble or something, which is not a good idea.
Granite countertops or just plain old wood countertops,
Right. So those are factors. But if you go with the builder, it's going to be about double that. So
because you're paying for the labor, because since you're not doing it, the just doubling the money is basically the best way to do it. So because they're doing all the labor.
Exactly. And depending on how custom your tiny house is, that's going to make the price go up big time. So buying a tiny house starts at $30,000 on the very low end, and it goes up to $90,000. It could be much higher than that. It could be upwards of $150,000 for like the Pimp My Ride giant tiny house mobile.
Yeah, get like sweet rims on the tiny house and stuff. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that'd be pretty rad. I guess. So there we go. So there's this huge range. Now there is a cool in-between model that's really popular, which is getting a shell. Now there's a range of shells and what that means, but maybe the best kind of shell are the ones where it has all the most difficult elements done, including plumbing and electric.
Yeah, that's definitely, because then if you know how to build, if you can build cabinetry or just want to buy cabinetry, you can tailor the inside of it to your liking. You can put the bed where you want it. You can put a loft. You can make the kitchen as big or as small as you want it. And you can still have all of your flair. You do have to figure out where outlets and pipes and all that stuff go beforehand, but you're still able to customize it, with your own basically finishes the way you want to.
Right. So you get that hands-on experience that so many people find so fulfilling, and opens you up to creativity of figuring out different customization as you go. And the cool thing about a lot of shells is you can get them like certified. Like you have all those difficult elements done, and you can get an RV certification before you even touch it, which is really cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
So that's a good in-between option, and those cost between $15,000 and $35,000. Of course, depending on size. So you might say, "Wow, that's like pretty pricey." But if you think about it, if you're doing the framing and the rafters,
it's all really hard parts. It's the really, really important parts. So, and attaching it, to the house, to the trailer. So those are the important parts. And if you're not comfortable building something like that, then that is a great way to go to ensure the safety of the house.
Totally. And to let you know a little bit about our experience, so Christian was our primary builder. I helped. We had friends help. And the big thing is we had a build mentor. Our friend Tom, who is now the co-founder of Perch and Nest Tiny Homes, mentored us, and he and a couple buddies helped us do some of the really difficult stuff like rafters.
Yeah, there's too much math in rafters. So I had these guys come and show me how to do parts of it, but to help that whole day. Oh, it took us 4 days to do it.
Totally.
So yeah, so it was the way to get something done and get it done right, and make sure that my house was, built safely.
Right. So invaluable, but some of those things are what you would get if you went with a shell. So things to keep in mind. All right. So from there, after you figure out budget, now we really got to talk about what is required to build your own. Like, what do you need to have on hand?
Yeah.
Well, a great way to save money is to collect materials over time as you see deals come up. So right away, you have storage needs. You need a place to store all that stuff.
Absolutely. And that's what we did. And we stored so much stuff. We gave, at the end of our build, we actually gave away tons and tons of stuff on Craigslist. But it was nice to have a place to put things that we used a hell of a lot of during our build. So having that storage is a real important thing.
Absolutely. So yeah, we were able to store our things. Check. We stored some of them at the old house I used to live in. It's a 900 square foot house. It had a basement and a yard. Some of our neighbors weren't crazy about some of the stuff we were storing. So remember that.
Yeah.
Again, our buddy Tom let us store some stuff on his farm, which was awesome, in an indoor space.
Yeah, right where we were building the house. So
how convenient.
Yeah.
All right, so then that brings us to the next thing is access to a build site. Where are you going to build? And do you have tools available to you? Because if you don't, that means extra.
Yeah, it's extra cash for sure. There are places that you can rent things, but you do have to, you have to consider that there is a cost with renting things like drills or other table saws or whatever. So it's thinking about all of those things. But having the tools is super important.
Absolutely. So here's some pictures from during our build. And we were so lucky. I mean, we got so lucky. So we had a place to store we were building. We had a place to build. Our buddy Tom had a shop in the top of his barn. How convenient was that? So he let us borrow his tools. Now, the catch to that was, and it is totally worth it, was if he had a job and he needed a tool and he was going to take it for the day, well, that means we had no access to that tool for the whole day.
Right. So most of the time it was the nail gun. It was more the nail gun than anything else.
Yeah, exactly. So, that could be inconvenient, but, it was free, so we weren't complaining.
No, not at all.
Thank you very much, Tom and Joanna.
Yeah, you guys rock.
Amazing people.
Totally. And there's some awesome shots of us putting up doing stuff at the house. And I don't know how it snowed on me when I was putting on the roof, but it was also 100 degrees. I don't know how that happened, but it did. It took me a month to put the roof on.
I know how it happened. It's called North Carolina.
Yeah, that's what it is.
You North Carolinians know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Okay, so what if you don't have a buddy like Tom? Where can you build? Well, a subscriber of ours, Catherine, just recently sent us an email. They were looking for a build site, and she was at her wit's end because she had done a lot of things right. First, she started by asking friends and family. She asked local maker spaces. She put a post on Craigslist. She even cold called salvage locations where they might have extra space. So unfortunately, none of them worked out.
Yeah, and all of those are really good ideas too. That was really good.
Yeah, I was so impressed. So I made a couple suggestions locally for people who she could reach out to, some other tiny house dwellers. I hope that works out for her. But all those places, I would start with the people first and then work out for there. So our buddies Cody and Randy built an interesting place.
Yeah, they actually built at a brewery of all places. They built their house in Texas. Where was it in Texas? It was in outside Dallas, Fort Worth area. Yeah, and so they actually built in the back of a brewery, and they did say that there were lots of like Saturdays and Sundays where one, people were coming over to them all day, and two, they stopped working at about 2:00 because somebody would come bring them a beer, and then it was just over.
I mean, it could be worse.
Oh yeah, it could be a lot worse. Don't drink on beer. I mean, don't work on beer.
He hasn't had any beers, I promise.
No.
No, but it might be advisable not to use power tools after a couple beers.
Yeah, and so they would stop. They would stop and just hang out.
So they found that through friends of theirs who owned the brewery. Mm-hmm. So think about weird locations like that. Another great place is there a local tiny house meetup group?
That's a good one.
Network with those people because somebody might have already done a build. Those are solid connections. And groups like the Dallas-Fort Worth Tiny House Enthusiast Group, not only can they provide connections, but they can provide help. We love that meetup group so much.
DFW is a great group. They're awesome, awesome people.
They help each other on their builds.
Yeah, all the time, all the time.
So this time it's Nina's turn, and the next time it's going to be BA's turn, and they learn as they go. And the benefit is, if you're the third or fourth house down in the line, you might learn from some mistakes.
Yeah.
So there's another awesome meetup group that's connected with a tiny house makerspace in Los Angeles called Latch Collective. And they do organized co-builds, is what they call them, once a week. So same kind of idea. It's a little bit more formal. If you live in Southern California, look them up. Well worth it. Okay, so those are the main things that you need to consider when you're deciding if you're going to build. There's also the thing of, do I have the ability? Do I have the skills to build?
Yeah, you definitely have to have some skills to build a tiny house, for sure.
Yeah.
Because it is a dwelling. There's a lot of important parts and pieces that need to be done exactly right for your house not to fall down or things happen to it. When it moves, when you open a door, those kinds of things.
So personally, I had volunteered at Habitat a couple times, like nailing in like shingles. Not exactly building experience. But Christian, you had a little bit more experience, though.
Yes, I did. I've built lots of sets working in photography and video. I know how to use tools and not hurt myself is the really big thing. But my dad also worked on every single house he'd ever lived in. Did things like took a kitchen from one side of the house and moved it completely to the other side of the house. Changed my old bedroom back here into a bathroom, all that kind of weird stuff. So through osmosis, through him, I've been able to learn how to do those things.
And then, I have to give him the kudos because he was there every single day doing it. But when he got stuck, besides our friends that we could ask for help or guidance here and there, YouTube was amazing, right?
It was awesome. That's the only way I was able to put my roof on.
Yep.
Because I picked up my roof and the guy was like, all right, call me if you have any questions. And I had one. Just how to put a metal roof on. So, yeah. So YouTube was awesome that way.
Yeah. There's tons of other great resources out there. Workshops you can do online or in person. Check out our website for links to some of those in the workshop and resource directory tabs.
Do that.
Lots of good stuff. So even if you haven't had much building experience, it is possible. You can do it, but it will take you much longer than you think.
Yeah. And remember to know what you don't know. So if you don't know how to use a tool or don't know how something's done, ask.
And take your time. Never rush, because rushing leads to accidents.
Yeah. Yes, we've had several people we know have lost several fingers. Like me, I've got all mine. But they've lost several fingers from table saws, and it's just, you don't want that to happen.
So it's like we want to be encouraging to say you can do it, but we're not trying to scare you. We just want to be realistic. And then the best thing is not to rush. And to give you some perspective, it took us 9 months to build ours, but Christian had the luxury because of his freelance work that he did, that he dedicated most of that time full time to it.
Yeah. So that was a great way to do it for me.
So, different people are different. If you don't have much experience, it could take you as much as 3 years,
Yeah. And it's going to take you however long. If you think it's going to take you 6 months, it will take you a year, because there's things that you never foresee. I always was, half the time I was waiting for something. I had to go to the store to pick something up, or I had to wait for a truck to drop it off. So a lot of times I was waiting for the next thing.
Okay, so think about all that, contemplate it. But if you're going to go with a builder, there's some very important things that you need to be aware of also. Number one, we cannot stress this enough. Always check references.
What does that mean exactly, Alexis?
Dun dun. It means customer references. So it means you can see if they have any online reviews. Sure, that's a good place to start. But also ask the builder, hey, can you give me some past customers that I can call up and ask? And they should, a builder, I believe a builder should have a couple people they can give you,
Mhm.
especially an ethical builder. And I'll tell you what, if they're a good, solid builder, they're not going to be shy about sharing that
They
information.
will not be shy. Ask for as many phone numbers as they want to give you, to call the people who have had houses built by this builder, and ask the big questions like, was it easy to work with this builder? Did you have any big problems with this builder? Did you guys get along during the build? Did they do exactly what you wanted them to do? Those are all really, really important things.
And of course, you can take some stuff with a grain of salt, especially if you read it in a tiny house Facebook group. Try to get multiple references so you can kind of make sure someone's being dramatic or not.
Yeah.
But these are really important questions to ask, because we do not, and we sincerely do not want you to become another horror story. Because we have people we personally know and people we've heard of who,
Mhm.
one, either got a subpar builder where something part of their house wasn't built correctly and it led to problems like,
Oh, big problems.
big problems
Big.
like mold or
The roof.
structural.
Yeah, the roof completely leaking and every single window in the whole house leaking.
Yeah,
These are problems.
gosh, I mean, there's this really heartbreaking story. I won't go into all the details, but someone had saved up all this money to buy their dream tiny house, and she was so excited to pay it off that she gave the builder all the money up front.
Don't do that. Don't do that either.
She got a leaky house. Yeah, big lesson there.
Yeah.
Get a contract, and also
Yes.
never give all the money up front. Even if you've saved it up, lock it up in a savings account. Don't touch it. But someone doesn't deserve all the money until they have delivered on what they said they were going to deliver to you.
Yeah, totally.
Because when she got this house with all these problems, she didn't have any leverage.
Right. Yeah, and you can even do things like Google the builder's name in the Better Business Bureau. You just Google their name, Google their company, and see if there's anybody else out there that's used them.
Their name and their company, because they might have switched companies.
Yeah, we did know a guy that went under an alias building a tiny house. So be careful. Seriously, guys.
There are tons of wonderful builders out there. We're friends with lots of them. Check our resource directory on tinyhouseexpedition.com. There's a bunch listed there. Check around. You can find someone who's a good fit for you, build wise, price wise, personality wise.
Yeah.
That's something to keep in mind.
All that. Yep.
So another subscriber of ours, Michael, recently reached out because he had saved up a lot of money. He was sourcing quotes from a few different builders, and the prices he got were pretty far apart. $30,000 worth of a difference.
Yeah.
And he shared a few of the details, and you could tell like maybe material choices, like 2x4 versus steel construction was a cost difference. Size, customization, size of the house, also size of the shop. If you go to someone like Perch and Nest, who's a smaller shop, they might be able to work more within your budget. You could share that with anybody. But a good builder, and I know Perch and Nest does this, is you're going to say, hey, I got $50,000. That's how much tops I can pay. And here's what I was thinking. I want a 28-foot tiny house with this and this and this, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to tell you, hey, great. We want $50,000. Here's what we can do. Maybe that means your house is going to have to be a little bit smaller, or maybe a few less custom details.
Right.
But that's what a good builder would do. Another builder we love, California Tiny House. They have a kick-ass $30,000 18-footer.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful, wonderful. You're not getting custom. You're not getting your big list of custom how-tos with it. But here's the great thing about tiny houses, right? You can customize later.
Totally. It's wood. So you can actually build other things, if you leave a living room off and don't do like built-in shelves or sofa or any of that, you could always build it in later, if you're handy enough, or when you get the cash to hire somebody else to do it.
Yeah, you can make changes.
Yeah, totally.
So shop around. Don't be afraid to ask for quotes for people to ask some questions. And you won't be disappointed. All right, the next big thing before you build or buy is you need to identify your your needs and your priorities, right? Because we want to figure out how tiny is right for you. Is 130 square feet like we have, in a 17-foot tiny house going to be right? Or is something more like a 30-footer going to meet your needs more? So that's a huge question. How often do you want to move?
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking to take your house on a road trip, or do you want to just have the option to move? Right? So ways to figure out those questions is because you're likely not going to know the answer to those right off the top of your head. Start by Pinteresting. If you haven't already gone down the Pinterest rabbit hole, create a dream board.
Yes, Pinterest is awesome. It is the best bookmark out there because for me, because it's visual, and tiny house is a lot of visual. So Pinterest is awesome because you get the picture up there and it connects to the website that you found the thing on. So please, that's awesome.
And as you're doing this, it's going to give you a lot of ideas. I also want you to either get out a pen and paper or get out your notes app in your iPhone or whatever and make a list of need to haves, like a toilet, right? You're probably going to really need a toilet.
More than likely.
And what are your wants?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe you want a bathtub.
Yeah, there's we've seen many tiny houses that have bathtub. We don't need a bathtub.
No. Don't really care.
No.
Now a bathtub
takes up a lot of space. That's a lot of real estate.
Depending on who you are,
yeah,
you might say a bathtub is a need. Well, cool. Design around it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's a want. Maybe you're like, it would really be nice to have a bath. But so that's important. So as you make this list and as you are Pinteresting up a storm and watching YouTube videos for inspiration, you're going to get a pretty good idea of what you think feels good. Mm-hmm. Now, I say what you think because it's really hard to know until you can actually feel the space in person.
Yeah, totally.
So what's the answer to this, Christian? How do you feel the space?
Oh, go and stay in one.
If you can, get a tiny house rental.
Yeah, there's tons of rentals. As of now, they're all over the United States. There's Airbnbs.
If you can't do that, you don't have access to that, and even more, another fun and affordable way to check it out is go to a tiny house festival.
Yes. Festival's great because so many tiny houses come together all at once, and you can see like, oh, this is a builder one, and they did this really cool, and I like that a lot, but I would connect it with this thing a DIYer did that's even cooler and make it even better.
Yeah. You will not be sorry you went. And that's exactly what we did. We went to a tiny house show. We saw, I think, 3 tiny houses, 3 or 4, and like a schoolie. Mm-hmm. And we stepped inside of them. And I was so relieved that an 18-footer felt
livable.
Felt good.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is nice.
Yeah, totally.
This, I don't feel claustrophobic. And what we ended up doing was we built on a 20-foot trailer.
17 and a half feet.
The rest is porch.
Yeah.
But that was so reassuring. I tell you, like, as we were arriving there, I was like sweating bullets before we went in because I was like, what if my dream is about to just explode? Maybe this whole time I've been thinking 20-foot trailer, I'm going to get in there and be like, heck no. Yeah. That might happen to you. That's good.
Yeah.
Go into a 28-footer. It's a world of difference.
Mm-hmm. And it was absolutely worth paying the money to go to the festival and see the houses and all of that stuff. Absolutely worth it.
Money well spent.
Absolutely.
Okay, so a couple upcoming tiny house festivals that you are going to find us at are the Atlantic Station Tiny House Fest in Atlanta, Georgia, and the Colorado Tiny House Festival in July. If you want to know what events are happening, we are adding events like crazy right now at tinyhouseexpedition.com/events. Check it out. Okay, so the thing that we can leave you with at this point of how to go forward is start saving and start researching. And we're gonna come back to that because I want to do a little caveat, because maybe you're like a lot of people and you say, hey, you know what? $30,000, $65,000 is so much to afford. I don't know how I'm going to even start on my dream. Well, there's some cool programs out there, like this grant program from Operation Tiny Home. It's going to help people who had some kind of hardship, financial, or maybe your home was destroyed in a natural disaster. There's a whole list of things. Go check it out. I'll put the link in the description below. But they have 2 approved builders who offer financing. So they're going to help you afford that first big payment, and then you can create a reasonable payment plan. So this is a really great way to afford a tiny house on wheels. There are also a number of affordable tiny home communities popping up in states like Oregon, Michigan, Utah, Colorado, Florida, where you can afford to rent or rent to own a house beginning at minimum wage, and up to someone who makes maybe $30,000 a year. I will put links to these also so you can check them out. These are typically going to be on Foundation House. But back to the big ending point here is you got to start.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things to think about, but if you sit there and allow yourself to get paralyzed by all these decisions, you're never going to get going. So start saving, even if it's coins in the piggy bank. Start researching, because the more research you do, the more excited you're going to get about your tiny house dreams.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And you're going to want to take steps to achieve those. So we really meant this as a lot of questions, but start at the dream stage, dream board, making that list on paper, asking yourself questions like, what do I need in my tiny house? And
what do you want in your tiny
Yeah.
house?
and start asking around, like, where maybe could I build it?
Yeah.
Maybe there's a farm up the street where you can build it. Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, if you appreciated this video and you want to wish me happy birthday, I mean, no pressure, but we'd really appreciate it if you could like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. And I want to leave you with the question of the day.
Yay.
Question of the day.
Yes.
Do you want to build your own tiny house?
Do you? Huh?
Think about it hard now. Let us know. And check out the resources. This Thursday, we're bringing you a super awesome tiny house tour. So check back around the same time, Thursday afternoon.
All right, guys. Good talking. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.